George Foulkes, to be followed by Murdo Fraser.
Presiding Officer, as I mentioned earlier, the officials of Transport Scotland very helpfully last Thursday had a briefing for Fife and Lothian MSPs. I think they were rather more revealing in what they told us than they'd intended, and I thank them for their frankness. I think the project is renamed, by the way. I don't think anymore it can be described as a fourth replacement crossing, because the existing bridge is going to continue as a vital part of the network. So it isn't really a replacement at all. It's an additional bridge. And the current bridge, as the Cabinet Secretary confirmed, is planned to be converted for public road traffic, buses and taxis with a lower loading. Although I must say I worry what's going to happen with high winds with the buses. And the redesigned new bridge will now only have two lanes, both for cars and lorries, with a 40-mile-an-hour limit, the officials told us. So there isn't going to be really any net increase at all in the total crossing capacity. And there isn't going to be a light rail system, as others have said, in the project. And incidentally, there's not going to be any, as I see it, decrease in carbon dioxide emissions. And when we asked how more road traffic from Fife would be accommodated in Edinburgh, the officials of Transport Scotland said, that's nothing to do with them. That's a problem for the city of Edinburgh. So we would have greater gridlock in Crammond.
Stuart Stevenson.
I wonder, Presiding Officer, if the member is simultaneously arguing that there should not be additional capacity across the Forth because of the implications in Edinburgh, an argument I recognise, but simultaneously arguing there should be additional capacity if we're building a new bridge. Could he clarify?
What I'm arguing is that we should have joined up government, joined up planning, so that when you are planning, or if we are planning additional capacity on the crossing, we should also do something in Edinburgh to cope with it. And nothing is being done in relation to that. And when the cost of the new bridge was, the costings rather for the new bridge was queried, it was clear that the budget was based on very speculative paper calculations. No account taken of what might happen with competitive tendering. And there was no detailed explanation, in spite of questioning, of how the £1.7 million which is supposed to have been saved has been saved. I can tell this chamber, however, that the officials were absolutely clear that it was certainly not attributable to the method of funding, as the First Minister claimed in this chamber last week, in yet another misstatement by the First Minister.
Minister.
I'm grateful to Lord Foulkes for giving me. Can I just tell Lord Foulkes that one of the factors that results in the reduction in the cost estimates is the fact that the government has gone for a more predictable basis of finance, which reduced the exposure to risk, which is one of the inherent points the First Minister made in his response to Mr Tolson at FMQs last week.
I'll come to that in a moment. It was clearly by the savings were going to be made clearly, according to these technical officials, by a reduction in the specification. As Marilyn Livingston said, we're getting a cut-price crossing. And I would argue that we're ending up with the worst of both worlds, spending billions but getting no significant improvement. Surely if there is to be a new bridge, the one important addition that there must be is an LRT element right from the start. That was what was proposed. That's what ought to be included. And I also asked, why was there no detailed examination of how rail services over the current rail bridge could be substantially improved? And there was no answer from the officials. I hope at least the Transport Minister will reply. Now, in my last couple of minutes, I want to come to the funding, because this is a crucial thing. I think it would be madness to press ahead with what the Minister, Antrisha Marwick, described as the traditional method of funding. This Parliament, previous governments, have built something with what's called the traditional method of funding. Do we know what it is? We're standing in it. This building, Holyrood, was it on budget? Was it on time? Did the traditional method of funding succeed in relation to this particular building? I would have thought that's a pretty awful example. But can I try what I hope is a positive suggestion to the Cabinet Secretary? And I want to be helpful in relation to this and not to be unduly party political. Why doesn't he consider the possibility of funding by a consortium of local authorities getting together to put a scheme to the Public Works Loan Board. The Public Works Loan Board, which is there to lend money precisely for these schemes and which has a level of interest rate which is a sensible and reasonable level. And the local authorities have those powers and can act as a proxy for central government. Now, I hope that's helpful, and I hope that the Cabinet Secretary will realise, from all the criticisms that there have been today and outside this chamber in relation to this bridge, both to the funding and to the design of the bridge, that surely the time is now just to pause for a few months, have a look at the project, have discussions with the United Kingdom government, as Jim Murphy has suggested, on all aspects of the project, and let's make sure that we've got a budget which it can be funded and which is fit for purpose.
And I call Murdo Fraser to be followed by Margaret Smith.